Moro moro, and welcome back to Culinary Role Playing and into the first episode of How It Plays. The premise of How It Plays is very simple. I will take a single TTRPG. I'm going to introduce the game to you guys, just give you the TLDR of the game. Then I am creating two characters and I'm going to have an actual play session, like a first session of the game. And I think that will help you to determine if this game is for you or not, because you can always read the rules, but just reading the rules you won't get the actual idea how it actually plays the game before you can actually see it in action. Of course, I can't get into all nitty-gritty that the system has to offer in one session, but hopefully you get the overall idea. Quick few disclaimers before we jump into the first game, which is Against the Darkmaster. The games I will present in this series are mostly games that I will play the first time myself as well. Imagine this is like a scenario where a new game master or a player has taken the book, opened it and probably read through most of the rules and has the feeling okay, now I think I'm confident to have the first session of this game. But some games might need a few sessions to actually get into the system, so keep that in mind. But in my honest opinion, a game should be at least somewhat engaging on the first playthrough. And if you have read the rules, you are supposed to be able to actually have a session with it, and it shouldn't be a nightmare to run. But okay, enough of that. Let's now actually get into our first RPG, which is Against the Darkmaster. Against the Darkmaster is kind of like a pseudo clone of the original Middle-earth role-playing, MERP, for those who are familiar with the term. MERP is of course made by Iron Crown Games originally, if I remember correctly, the people who also did the amazing Rolemaster, the classic Rolemaster, or how some people tend to call it, the Chartmaster. And I have to say, the legacy is there. We still have many interesting charts that we can roll for, and yeah, but I think they have succeeded well enough in streamlining some of the rules, because in Rolemaster you roll a lot of tables. There is a lot of tables, and you get also these tables in Against the Darkmaster, but I think they have streamlined the whole thing a little bit, which is good, which is great. But now it remains to be seen how fluid it is actually to use these tables and charts in the actual play. So the base system in Against the Darkmaster is D100 roll over, and we have what the game calls, and what is also familiar in the Rolemaster, open-ended rolls. Open-ended rolls basically means when I roll the dice and I get 96, for example, or above that, so 96 to 100, I will try to remember that I will have to remember that number that I got, and I will roll again, and I will add these two numbers together. So you're gonna need a calculator on this one, or be just completely awesome at math. So those are your two options. And then you will add your skill modifier to that roll, and that final result either works as a skill check, so you can see did you succeed or not. Usually it's if you roll over 100 you succeed. Or in combat, and in some other cases there will be different kind of charts that I can actually show you. You have this game tables section over here, and you have all of these two different weapon types. You have your own charts. You have beast attack chart. Then you have critical tables as well. So basically, if I roll a really good result in my attack, for example, let's see, edged attack table, so that would be using swords and blades. I rolled like really well, let's say 160. So then we go, with this table, we go to the section 160, which would be here. So 156 to 160. And then we will also see if the enemy had armor on. So there is like no armor, light armor, medium armor or heavy armor. Let's say enemy had some light armor on, like leather armor. We are here, then we go to the 160, which is here. We know that we did 30 damage and a lethal critical. So now lethal critical basically says that the maximum number that we can get from the critical table, which would be now cut critical strikes because we used an edged weapon. So now we roll again 3-100. And because we know it's a lethal critical strike, we add plus 50 to this roll. And then we will look the table again and see what kind of critical strike we did. So, but we also did the 30 damage. So now we have to remember 30 damage, a lot of math. And now I rolled 45. So now we would add the 50 to that. So that would be 95. And then we go down the table and we can have like maximum results depending on the critical strike that we did. So now we did lethal, so we can go all the way. So 95, that would be here. Slashed through abdomen, plus 10 damage and targets stunned. If the target's wearing armor, bleed 3. If the target's unarmored, 6 bleed and minus 30 to all actions. Well, they had an armor, so that means they take 3 bleed. So that would be overall 40 damage, 1 stun and 3 bleed, which is devastating attack. So yeah, a lot of math, but I think most of the cases it seems like the math is worth it. Starting characters have around like 80 to 60 HP, so that would already be like a devastating blow, like half of their life gone. And then you would be stunned, which means you can't make any full actions and everything like that. Yeah, that would have been devastating. So that's how the math works in the system. I decided not to make like a full-on character creation because that takes time and I don't want to make this video too long. I will introduce the characters that I have done for our adventure and then we can have a look at the other characters, like character sheet, and I can also give you some nice tips that how you can create your character like efficiently in this game, okay? Here we have our virtual tabletop. I'm using Miro, which is basically like a virtual whiteboard, but I think it's really easy to bring pictures here and it's really easy to like fill your character sheets and keep everything in one place. Like I usually prefer this to many like virtual tabletops. We actually use this Miro more likely in our game, in group games as well. So here are our 2 characters. In this adventure I made 1 wizard so we can see the spellcasting system, and then I made 1 good old warrior. Our warrior character is called Takino, the master of the blade. So both of our party members are from this little small town called Ember Pine Bay. It's a small elven community that is rich in culture and especially in magic. Takino was a human orphan who had no place to go, but was accepted into this small town. And he trained hard and became the blade master of the community, which is like this kind of basically like a captain of the guard, but in my own home setting I'm thinking more like they are just like these really high esteemed bodyguards for different individuals. And from the same community we also have Lavano, who is an elven wizard apprentice studying the arts of magic, and these 2 will have some kind of adventure together. And here we can see the world map, which is called the Trial Lands. and our small town Emberbine Bay. So that will be our starting location. It was actually made in Vatabu Perilous Land. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically like can randomly generate like different region maps and dungeon maps for you. It's really handy, like GM tool. If you want to check it out, I will leave a link down below. But now let's get actually into the character sheet. And well, I think they both have some magic, so let's take a closer look at Takino. At the first glance, there is a lot of stuff, I know. But most of this stuff is not relevant during gameplay. Only thing we are looking at while we play is this final total row here. This tells us the actual, like the skill value that we can use, that we need to use. Everything else just indicates like where do you bonuses stack from. Let's take for example blades in Takino, which is Takino's one of like specialities as a blade master. Go figure. Blades. So we have our stats, our attributes or characteristics, whatever you want to call them. And the base for our stats is 20 because of like the base that you can partially decide yourself, and then our kin bonus. Kin is like our ancestry, which is human for Takino. So overall we have 20 from here. So that is our base for the blade skill. Then we can build up ranks. Ranks is basically how you level up your skills in this game. And ranks basically work in a way that from 1 to 10 you will get +5, from 11 to 20 you will get +2, and from there on up you get only +1 to your skill. So because we have 20 as base, we have 3 ranks, which means +15, then we have 20 for our vocation. Vocation is like our class, which is warrior, so we get some additional add-ons from there. And then we have special case upgrades, and then we have 1 for our item, because we have a very special blade, because we are the blade master, and we have the blade master's blade, which give us +10, and that gives us overall score of 75, which is really good for a level 1 character. What is really interesting about Against the Darkmaster is that it's actually a skill-based but also level-based game. So it has a lot of bells and whistles you can like upgrade. But basically like the levels work in a way that it gives you in these different skill groups. Like we have combat skill group, we have adventuring skill group, we have roguery skill group, law, body, magic. We get like all these different skill groups depending on what is your class. We get ranks every level that we can then distribute to our different skills. But it doesn't mean, like for example, I don't have any upgrades on law skill as a warrior. But what I can do is I will get 5 level ups to combat every skill level. I will take 1 point from here and maybe 1 point from adventuring. That will create me 1 skill rank to a skill group that I don't have any like ranks in. It is kind of fiddly system, but it works. Like for the most part, it really works well. And when you get into it, it starts to make really sense. So like I said, let's not get into step-by-step character creation, but I can show you the first page where it gives you the TLDR of how to create your character. It first would tells you to like generate your stats, then choose your kin and culture, choose your vocation, background, and then calculate derived attributes. I would suggest, especially if you come into this character creation as a first time person coming into this, and you haven't not exactly decided what you want, I would actually move the stat creation around, probably around here, as a 5th. option. And I would start by choosing our kin and culture, choosing our vocation, and then our background stuff, because after that we have a much better idea on what stats do we actually need. So it's much more easier to then decide what stats do you want to put where. But if you want to random generate your character, which the game highly suggests that you do and actually actively rewards you if you randomly generate your character, then you can start from generating your stats. Then you have like a little bit more idea of what kind of character it comes up with, you know. But yeah, I would start with, as a new player, I would start with choosing your kin and culture. Kin are your humans, but it's very like Tolkien-esque because the MERP DNA in there. So we have man, we have high man, we have dwarfs, halflings, half elves, and if you can see the helmet design, that's like straight from Lord of the Rings. But yeah, you have your different kin, which gives you different stat bonuses, possible special traits, and also, which is important to remember, is how much background points you get. We will get into that later. As you can see, as a human, Takino basically gets nothing for their stats. Like, we get +5 to our brawn, and that's it. But what we get is 6 background points, and we will get into that a little bit later. But remember that background points are a good thing, okay? So we first decided to be human. We add all the things we get from being human, which is actually we get an additional +10 to any skill that we want, and I decided to put that on blades, so that's why there is special +10. Then we decide our culture, and culture for the most part just gives you some extra background skills that you have learned from your culture, and also basically the starting wealth and equipment, like starting equipment and stuff like that. And finally, we also have our vocation, which is like our class, and we decided to go with warrior. Overall, the game has 6 classes, 6 vocations, if I remember correctly, right? We have warrior, rogue, wizard, animist, champion, and dabbler. Yeah. And what does basically class mean is it just gives you those development points per level, which means like it gives you the idea of what skills your character learns more quickly and what skills we really have to work for to get stats in. For example, as a warrior, surprise, surprise, we won't get any magic skill rank upgrades. But what we get quite a lot as a warrior is body category development points. And in this game, HP is a skill that you can develop, and that's how you get more hit points per level. You might not get any hit points per level at all, but as a warrior we get 2 ranks per level, so we will like become more powerful in HP wise, or become more resilient. But yeah, that's like it, so it's not really that restrictive to be like a certain type of class, and you don't get like any class locked abilities by playing a certain class. It just gives you some skills to be learned much more like faster and more easier. As a warrior, we get our vocation bonus, which is like it gives like a base bonus to our specific skills, and then we can distribute 5 ranks among the things we want to distribute ranks in, and I have now distributed these different ranks in here. So there are things called specialty skills. I'm not gonna get into it because there is so much thing to cover, but TLDR, special skills are basically kind of like soft passive perks that you can upgrade. For example, I have weapon speciality longswords, which means that at certain rank points I will get, like if I keep building up my rank on this specific skill, I will get some extra nice abilities out of it. For example, I think when I have rank 10 in this rank, I can divide my attack skill into 2 and make 2 attacks per round. Normally you can only make 1 attack. So that is like one extra ability that I can get out of like specialty skills, which are optional rule, by the way. So now we have our kin, we have our culture, we have our vocation, and now what we need is to distribute our background points. These are basically the things that make your character a hero. These are like your extra features, these are your extra abilities that give your characters the unique taste and the unique feeling. For example, in Takino's case, like I said, humans don't get a lot of stuff, but they get a lot of background points. They get 6 background points, which is crazy. And then there are different background options that you can take, and there is usually 2 tiers of background benefits that you can get from that costs 1 and 3, and then I think there's only 1 background feature that only costs 2 to take, and then there is also 1 background that costs 4 points to take. So, because we were raised by the elves, what I have first taken elven training, which means that we get some extra traits from elven kin traits. For example, we can do magic, but actually can't because we don't have any magic points, because we don't have enough stats, but that's enough of that. Then we have exceptional training. You studied under a renowned mentor who taught you the secrets of a particular skill. Well, we are blade master, so that's why I decided to take this as a blade skill, which is like sword fighting. Name your mentor. I didn't actually do that, but let's see if that comes up during the adventure. So name your mentor. You gain 2 ranks in any one skill of your choice, except spell laws, or 5 ranks in a specialty skill of your choice. And here I added that 5 ranks to the longsword specialty skill, like weapon specialization skill. And then I decided to opt out and take the higher major background upgrade. Your mentor also left you an item specially tailored to you as a keepsake. This item grants you a +10 item modifier to the chosen skill. So that's why we have the Sword of the Blade Masters, and I narrate it in a way that it's this kind of blade that will only be given to the next Blade Master when the time is to like give the mantle to the next one. So at some point the Blade Master should always choose a prodigy who will become the next Blade Master. So that's how Takino got their own blade. And then we also take the Sworn Defender, because I think it was a really good flavor to really hammer in the bodyguard aspect or the guardian aspect of Takino. And I also took the major options on there as well. So we are immune to fear, and we gain +15 bonus to save roll against mind influencing effects, because we are so keen on keeping our code. But I really enjoyed the background aspects because, like, yeah, you have like feats and talents and all that kind of stuff in other tabletop role-playing games as well, but I think these background options were written so well, and they really had like these additional things, like actually like you have to name your master or name the people who are hunting you, and there was like, it actually encouraged you to narrate and create your background and make it like more deep. And finally, yeah, then we have like blades, but I don't think we need to go to the equipment and weapons. We will get into that when combat comes. And then we have the spells. Spells are basically, you learn things called spell laws, that is basically like a school of magic or a specific magic type. For example, well, I can demonstrate you by showing spell skills. Like here, Lavano has Eldritch Frost, Sound and Light, spell songs, which are basically like its own genre and its own subtype of different spells. And the better we are in one spell lore, the more effective we are of using it, and the more powerful spells we can use from that category. So we don't have to like take different frost spells to, like, if we want to be like this kind of frost mage, we don't have to like pick, when we level up, like pick the frost spell again, and then we level up and pick the frost spell again. We just keep improving our frost skill, and that will unlock the more powerful spells as we go. But yeah, whew, that took way longer than I thought it will. So yeah, a lot of stuff in character creation, but for the most part it made a lot of sense. And the most important thing for me, I had actually fun creating the characters. I have created many characters in many systems, and this was by far one of the most interesting character creations to read and actually create my characters. And I was actually like creating the background while I was creating the characters. It was not just blindly picking up different stats. So a big thumbs up to actually making character creation enjoyable, especially like when you have this kind of game that it will take a long time. One final thing that I have to mention from the characters before we get into any further of the adventure, we also have drive points, which is another major thing that makes us heroes. Drive points are basically like, yeah, you can use them as rerolls, but also you can like get bonus modifiers like +10 to your skill rolls. And if you have 5 drive points, you can actually, I think you can force a critical. So you can actually make a critical success automatically by using 5 drive points. And drive points you will get by actually playing your character. Like, you have the passions here. So passions tells your character's motivation, what they are all about, like nature, and our allegiance. And every time we do something that might be risky, but it still like plays into our character motivations, nature and allegiance, that will give us more drive points. And by using the drive points, we can actually upgrade our heroic path. When we have used 10 drive points, that means we can have a revelation. And revelation is basically like you level up by XP, but you also have a milestone leveling, in a sense that during downtime of the adventure, these epic character moments that develop your character's personal story even further. For example, like Takino could have a conversation with his master, again about the order and his training, and the master might reveal some extra aspect of the sword, and we could actually use the revelation to upgrade our sword to be like even better. For example, there are many ways you can use the revelation, like you can just give your character a stat boost as well, if that makes narratively sense to your character. But it's really interesting to also like not only level up by gaining experience, but also by having these narrative moments that will develop your character even further additionally. And also like the experience points in this game, they are not like gained by like slaying X amount of monsters to get X amount of XP. No, these are actually like like milestones that you will decide with your group or yourself if you are playing solo. These can be like discovering new location. You faced dangerous foes and or difficult situations, and you completed a mission or a quest, or ended a significant story arc. And these are all things that give you XP. So let's get into the adventure. So I did some little bit of pre-planning to determine our adventure today. Normally when I would play solo, I would just like go with the flow and use a lot of oracle tables to determine the outcome, but because now today I want to showcase you different aspects of the system, I did a little bit more pre-planning than I tend to do, but I think that's good for us for now. So our quest today for Takino and Valanor. I changed Lavanor's name to Valanor because I was calling Lavanor Valanor all of the time. So Lavanor is now officially Valanor. So our quest for today is to escort an elder of the Emberbind Pie community to nearest bigger town called Dawnbreeze, which is this kind of cultural meeting point of the Western societies that tend to be a lot of elves and dwarves. And I would say within a month they are going to have this kind of annual meeting of different city elders, which is basically like this kind of event where they discuss of the local politics. And every town can send their own envoy to voice their concerns and their ideas of the future of the Eastern societies within the Trial Lands, which is this whole region in here. All the communities from Brightham to Vermil, definitely, Dawnbreeze, there's the quest marker where we are going, Sandyvale, Cold Scale, even Raven Crossing, and of course Hostenfire. These are the eastern communities that will definitely send their own envoy to this community meeting. So the quest for Takino and Valanor is to escort safely the town elder Brianna to this event. It will be within a month, and the travel will probably take around 2 weeks. So we have a little bit time, like extra time, just to be safe, like if there will be some bumps on the road. So what I did, I actually bought some more equipment to the adventurers, and so that you don't have to see me buying a lot of stuff. But I think the encumbrance system and the money system is really good in Against the Darkmaster, and I want to showcase it just a little bit before we like start our adventure. And how wealth and encumbrance work in Against the Darkmaster is that every character has a wealth level from 0 to 5. And that is basically like this kind of big generalization of the wealth. So we don't count individual coins, which is not like very productive or very fun. I'm sorry, I was so assumptions. It can be fun, but in this context, it's maybe a little bit too fiddly. If something costs under your wealth level, like if we have well, for example, Valanor has wealth level of 3. That means anything that costs 1 or 2 in here means that we can just get it. And if something costs equal to our wealth level, that means our wealth level will go down by 1. So that means then it's like significant purchase compared to our wealth. So that means it will diminish our monetary resources or wealth resources. And if the cost level is higher than our wealth level, that means we can't buy it unless we do some extra stuff to get to that wealth level. There wasn't like exact rules on like how much you can buy stuff with like the lower levels, but as a GM I would probably, if your players start to somehow like abuse the system, like buying a lot of stuff from wealth level 2 when they have wealth level 3, at some point I would say like, okay, you should now lower your wealth level by 1. But which like counterbalances this is the encumbrance system. And I can actually show you the encumbrance system in the tables section. Here we have all the encumbrance levels. The encumbrance level is also very like hand-waved in a sense that there is not like, you don't count individual equipment. There is just like these kind of guidelines on what is encumbered and what is heavily encumbered. For example, encumbered means you have clothes, belt with a pouch, a heavy weapon or 2 light weapons, a heavy backpack with 1 week worth of rations, a bedroll and a various travel equipment. That would be like encumbrant. And what is heavily encumbrant? Clothes, several melee or missile weapons, a big and a very heavy 25 kilograms plus backpack, and lots like 2 weeks of rations, a camping tent and other encumbering traveling gear. So yeah, it's always like up to debate like what is encumbered and what is heavily encumbered, but these rules are very hand-wavy, and because they are so focused on like being very simulationist on the combat side and on the skill check side, they are taking the load off on like very other aspects of the game. And I don't think this is a bad thing. I think this is a very good generalization of the system, and I think this is really good. And now we get into the actual fun part of the game, which is traveling and like doing these quests. The game is very keen on traveling in a sense that it is heavily inspired by Lord of the Rings, like we have said. Those stories are all about traveling. Basically, like Lord of the Rings, all of the books, like the base 3 books, they are all about traveling to different locations and having this one big road trip from Shire to Mordor, right? So how the traveling works in this system, especially now when we have a clear destination where we want to go and we know the road that we are gonna take. Instead of like using individual hexes or like rolling every night if we get an encounter, you simply divide the journey into different hazards. For example, we could now easily say that, okay, we start from the journey from Emberbine Pie and our first hazard will be at the Veiled Temple, where there can be like these undead forces, because this location is cursed by an ancient curse, so all the corpses that have been resting there been starting to rise up from the grave for some reason. So that is an hazardous location, which will be one of the events of the journey. Then we could say the second event in our journey is in Vermil, where we have to go into the town and resupply some stuff, because we have been at this point probably journeying for a week, which means like all of our rations have been like used, so we need to buy some extra rations from here. But this is heavily a town that is famous for its shadowy dealings and nosy people, so we need to be careful in this town when we are like resting there for a second. And then we could say that the final stretch of the journey is this southern forest part where the road is very treacherous and you can easily get lost in there. And then finally we could get into Dawn Priest. So that would mean we had 3 hazards while we travel and make this road trip. So we don't have to like individually go hex by hex and then roll to see if there might be some troubles. We can just say that, okay, here, here and here, these are locations that are dangerous or hazardous. And hazards in this game does not necessarily mean like it is like a natural storm or an enemy attack. Hazards can be like interesting locations, different cultures. It's just basically like a milestone of the trip. It's basically like different points of the journey that are interesting and might create adventures of themselves. You don't have to make like a camping check every night, but when you are camping at the Mirkwood, which is this dark and dangerous place, there you might need to do a camping roll to see if something goes terribly wrong. It basically makes traveling as a point crawl, which is really nice and interesting way to do traveling. Our party probably meets up at the edge of the Emberbind Pie to start their travel, and they also meet up with the town elder Brianna, who probably respectfully bows in front of them, and at least Takino, who is very like honor bound and very dutiful in like everything he does, so he will probably bow to Brianna as well. And I think, yeah, Valano will bow as well, but it's more like courtesy bow, like, oh yes, of course. Okay, should we get going now? Nice to meet you, both of you, and I think I have probably seen you around. I am one of the city elders, Brianna. I will be in your care, and I hope you get me into Dawnbreeze safely. I put my trust in you two. I believe this is gonna be a wonderful journey. Takino probably just like bows even deeper and be like, you can count on us. No harm will fall upon you during this travel. And Valano will probably just be like, oh, it's so early. Look, the sun is even rising, but I guess this is the best time as any to start the adventure. So here we have the different travel distances you can walk per day depending on your encumbrance level. And we are going by foot, definitely. And we are in normal terrain. So when we are encumbered, because we have a week's worth of rations, we both have weapons, it means, yeah, we are definitely encumbered. We have petrols and stuff with us. It means we can go 30 kilometers per day. And in our map, I would say that's the 30 kilometers is around 1 hex. So it will take us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days to get into Vermeil, which is basically almost a week. So that means it is a perfect time for us to stop and restock our rations, and then get the final stretch of the journey to Dawnbreeze. And like I said, our first hazard will be in Veiled Temple. We start our journey from Emberbind Pie, going through very favorable and very well-known forest paths. These roads are not strangers to any members of Emberbind Pie. There is a lot of like training grounds and different herb gatherings and all that kind of stuff in these forests, and they probably see like some friends along the way while they travel through this hex. So nothing of interest for us will happen in this hex, so we can just keep going. That is the first day of travel done, and the first trouble that we might come across is at the Veiled Temple area. I was thinking that it would be interesting to have this fight against the undead to see how the combat would actually work in this game. Normally I wouldn't just like push characters into combat, and especially in this game, because this game can be really brutal. But because we want to try out all of the systems that the game has, of course we have to check the combat out, right? So they are around in the center part of the opening where the Veiled Temple is closely located. I think they can even see this old magnificent ruin of an old elven society that was cursed by an evil entity. what kind of entity that would have been. Let's ask the oracles. Let's make a deep NPC and see what kind of individual cursed this whole society to become undead. So I will be using my own oracle that you can get from down below. Link is in there, completely free. You're welcome. So, complex NPC. The black die will show me the result of the charts up. I'm using charts. Even with my oracle, I'm using charts. So I'm very committed to this chart thing now. So yeah, black will show the black and white will show the white. Simple as that. Let's go. And because we are making a deep NPC, that means we will roll 2 things. 2 and 2. Servant. So the location has been cursed by a servant. 5 and 3. Servant innkeeper. Innkeeper servant. That's interesting. Yeah, I know. Yes, the whole place was cursed by this innkeeper servant because there was like this one big communal hub location in this old ruin, and one of the innkeepers was deeply hurt by the whole community, and they got really mad and they got really twisted, and into that corruption I think some kind of dark force seeded an idea into this innkeeper's servant's head that this whole society has to be purged. So this innkeeper servant started to like pour down this poison into everyone's drinks, and it was like this kind of slow poison. It was a thing that like spread out very slowly because the servant did not want to get caught. So day by day, slowly pouring a little bit of poison to 1 drink per day, continuing for years, and slowly this society crumbled because they first thought it was just a plague, but it was actually a poison that cursed them. And it was not only a poison, it was poison that was provided to this servant by this dark entity, and the poison also was infused with a curse that will bring back the dead. And that was basically like the final nail to the coffin to this community, that the dead started to rise. And when the whole community was already weakened, the dead took over. So now, at the Veiled Temple, I think it's very well known that this is the domain of the undead. And it is twilight. I think Takino is closely keeping watch, and Valano is basically just talking smack with the elder. Like, that was so good story. I enjoy your stories all of the time, elder. You know what? Have you heard the story about... But then Takino is like, shh. We are getting close. And they can see basically like this kind of undead roadblock. It is just one skeleton with an axe. And they look very carefully at the sides of the road. They can see 2 undead zombies that look like that have been elves in their time, without any armor, without any weapons, just clothes on. They are wandering around the fields next to the road. We can't go around them. Fortunately, we have to fight. But if we could sneak a little bit more closer, we could probably get a jump on them. Are you two ready? Valano gets a little bit more serious and starts to very, very carefully and quietly ready their bow. I can try to get a first shot in if we get close enough. And Brianna the Elder is possibly like, I'm sorry, but I am no fighter, so if I could maybe stand back and see you guys do the work, that would be great. Takino's definitely like, do not worry, we will handle this. So, are they facing towards us, or are these undead facing to the other direction? Now we can actually ask the oracles. I will go to my oracle yes and no table and roll a single d6. And I would say it is 50-50 that are the enemies facing away or towards us. 5. Yes. The answer is yes, they are facing towards us. So I would think that we are out of the forest already. This is an open road. They can kinda see us already. So that means sneaking is not an option. But we could still maybe take one shot in before this whole thing starts. As they are planning their plan of attack, they can already see these 3 starting to slowly approach them. Okay, so almost like an open field. No fancy stuff, no stealth, nothing. We just get right into it. So I have set up here like an approximation of our battlefield right now. We have the 2 zombies in the sides here, side of the road. We could like maybe say that this is the road that we are on right now. So I could actually just change this here. So it's kind of safe to assume, I think they're a little bit farther away actually, that we maybe have like round or 2 times to prepare ourselves before the zombies and the skeleton are upon us. And I can quickly also show you here the stats of the enemies. How stats are written for enemies in Against the Darkmaster. You can see first the level. Oh, sorry, you can't probably hear me because of the mic. What we can see here is the level of the enemy, and then there is also 3 tiers of enemies. There are common enemies, elite enemies, and the third one was an antagonistic enemies or antagonists, which are basically like these kind of your bosses and stuff. Common enemies mean that when compared to same level of a hero, they have on average lower stats. Elite enemies means that they are like on the level of the heroes of the same level. And antagonistic means like, yeah, they are very powerful and they have higher stats than a regular hero would, even at the same level. And then we have here MR, which means movement rate, 14 meters, and L means land. So then we would also have 14F, which is flying, and then we have, for example, 14S, which is swimming. Defense, how much defense does the enemy has? And this also includes all the armor and all the shields already. So usually you don't tend to parry with enemies, and we get to that a little bit later. But basically what it means that you can use your combat ability modifier to like add into your defense. We have TSR, which means toughness saving rolls. Then we have WSR, which is willpower saving rolls. These usually come into play when trying to fight against fear and magical effects or physical effects. HP, hit points. Then we have first attack, second attack, and third attack. And these are not like how many attacks the enemy can make. No, this just means their preferred attack and then optional attacks if they have. And that is just the number that they will add into their attack bonus. And a weapon means that they just have one weapon that the GM decides what the weapon is. Then we have special, which is unliving and mindless. Some creatures have like special effects. Unliving and mindless just means that they are undead creatures, they don't bleed, and mindless means that they cannot be scared, basically. And then we have like skill bonuses on, because we don't have individual skills on enemies, we just have roguery, adventuring skills, and law skills. And that's that. That's all you need to know about enemies. And we have one skeleton, and then we have 2 times medium undead zombies in here as well. In Against the Darkmaster, combat works as follows. Instead of having to roll initiative and like creatures and enemies and players would have like their individual turns, for example, we have this thing called tactical round sequence, which means that everything that we do in the combat like happens in phases. So everyone moves at the same time, everyone makes the melee attacks approximately at the same time, and everyone do the spells and range attacks at the same time. Of course, there are a little bit like layers on who does what first, but basically like it's not like you have a movement, an action, and bonus action, and you just do everything and then you just wait when everyone else does their thing. No, everyone use their movement at the same phase, everyone use their melee attack at the same phase, so it makes battles much more dynamic and feel much more like you have more control of the battlefield. So let's go through the phases together. First is the assessment phase, which normally in here you basically just mark if your character is stunned, for example, if your character is bleeding or having any conditions. This is the time you like mark those. Then if, for example, like your character has been stunned or has done something in the last round that basically has taken them out of it, they might have to do a perception roll to see if they are like, if they can assess the situation and see where everyone is. Then we have action declaration phase. This is the part when everyone tells about what they're gonna do in their round. The GM always says first what the enemies are going to do, because players are heroes, so they have that little bit edge to like really plan and see what the enemy does first, and then they can like do things according to that. And what you can do during these different sequences is you can do either one big action, you can do a big action and a smaller action, or you can do smaller actions, and then you have a bunch of free actions. And that's that basically. And only thing you get a penalty for is if you do a big action, which is like an attack, and a small action, which is basically like a movement. So if you do those both things, you will get -20 penalty to all things that you need to roll for. So assessment, action declaration. Then we have move, spell A, ranged A, melee, ranged B, and spell B. So why is it divided like this is because most of the spells you might need to start like preparing and cast in the next round, for example. Same thing with the ranged weapons, because usually you need to use at least half action for bows, for example, to like knock an arrow to your bow. You could already have a bow readied in one round and then just release the arrow at the start of the battle, or start of the round, I mean. And finally, at the end of the tactical round sequence, we have other actions, which is like interacting with the environment, with the objects, and all that jazz. I know it sounds complicated for now, but let's just have a few rounds and you start to see like it's not that difficult. It is twilight, so we can see fairly well. We don't have to think about at the darkness right now, thank God, because we have Takino, who is human, who doesn't see in the dark, so that would be really bad if you not see anything. Takino, they had time to prepare, so I would say Takino will unsheath his sword and hold it with 2 hands. He has time to do that. And Valanor was already taking the bow out and knocked an arrow. So they are basically ready to shoot. But we have few rounds before, I would say, even like going full movement, they will get only to the halfway. And just during the next phase, they will get into our position that where the heroes are right now. So what you can actually do when you are ready with a ranged weapon. So it's actually in here, combat options 196, aiming. Characters wielding a missile weapon can spend 1 or more rounds to aim at their target, increasing their chances to find their mark. Aiming is a multi-round action. For each consecutive round spent aiming, characters get a special +10 bonus to their next attack roll with a missile weapon. Weapons against the target they were aiming at up to a maximum of +40. Characters taking any other actions besides aiming or attacking with a missile weapon lose all aiming bonuses. Characters attacking and aiming combatant gain a special +20 bonus to their attack rolls. Okay, so if somebody's focused on aiming someone and then somebody just surprises them basically and attacks them, they get a bonus for that, which makes sense. So I would say this first round, Valanor will simply just start aiming at the zombie number 1, who is coming now from the side of the road and closing in basically diagonally, also getting into the road. So they have knocked their arrow already, because we determined that during the narration, and now they just use the full round to aim. We have now had the assessment phase. Everyone sees everybody, so nothing fancy there. We have declared Valanor will aim the weapon against the zombie number 1. We know that Takino just has taken the sword ready and holding it with their 2 hands, ready to fight. And I will just declare now that the zombies and the skeleton will use their full action just to move forward. And now we go into the movement phase, where the characters move into the middle point around here, and they will be in our faces next round. And I will say, because it's only half action to unsheath sword, I will also say that Takino will take a little bit on the front, like on the front side, to be ready to fight. And our elder takes a few steps back here, just to be sure that they are not being attacked, and be like, be careful. So that was our movement phase. Then we would have ranged phase A. We are still aiming, so that doesn't do anything for us. Then we would have spell phase A. Nothing happens there. Melee phase, nobody's engaged right now. So basically that's it, that's the round. Then we would go back into the assessment phase. No changes there, everyone sees everybody, no conditions. We go to the declaration phase. I will first declare the monsters or the enemies. And I think that at this point they will see that these are definitely not undead. The skeleton, basically, which seems like a captain of these 2 undead, is like shows a direct commandment to these zombies to attack, and also charges themselves in as well. Because like shouting and singing and like talking it's a free action. And I would say these both zombies just start to like take running steps and actually start to charge. Are they actually charging? Because that is a mechanic as well. Charging means heading up against an opponent at maximum speed, running through the battlefield to deliver the most powerful blow possible. A charge is a full action, allowing characters to move half of their move rate and attack an opponent in melee with the special plus 20 points to the attack rolls. Charging characters must move to each of their targets before attacking. Engaged characters cannot declare charge. So that would mean that they could only move half movement now, and then they would have to charge at the next phase. So will they just move half movement now and then try to charge, or will they just run? I would say they don't have like any tactics. They are mindless undead, so they just like use their full movement to go against these characters. So where will they go? Will they all just try to attack Takino, because Takino took like the front stage? I think this number one will try to go against Valano as well, because they are like here. Yeah, definitely, and these two will go to Takino. So they will take their full movement and just run next to them, but they can't take any attacks because it is their full movement. It's a full action to do that, because they are still so far away. Now, interesting question is, can we move a little bit as Valano, or do we lose our aiming bonus? Because if we stay here, I think the enemies will have time to get into our faces before we can actually shoot one of them. Because yeah, first is action declaration, then it's move, then it's spell range. Yeah, so they would have time to actually run into our faces before we can even fire the arrow. Characters with a missile weapon can spend one or more rounds to aim at the target. We are still doing that. Aiming is a multi-round action. Yeah, I think we we actually lost our benefit in here. If we would move and then fire, that's possible. But then it would be with minus 20 penalty, because of we would be doing a full action and a half action. So yeah, the full movement really screwed us over. So what we could do is to just now pull out our short sword and like just give up on trying to fire, which sucks, but I think, yeah, I think Valano just didn't have like, crap! They didn't have time to actually like aim properly. They were surprised how fast these creatures were actually moving. So they have to like, I would think they will just drop their bow and as half action take out their scimitar. And will they attack with minus 20 penalty? I think they will also try to attack the enemy. So movement phase, half action, they will take their short sword and still try to stab the enemy. And Takino sees enemies fully ready. They will use their attack action to hit the zombie number 2. Just tries to full on stab them before they get too close. So that is action declaration. So Takino stabs zombie number 2 and just embraces himself. Valano just drops the bow and unsheaths the short sword and still tries to have a stab in, which is half action and full action. And these undead just run straight ahead. So they don't have any tactical minds to go a little bit slower first and then charge in. And the town elder will just be here, maybe go a little bit farther back. That was declaration. Movement phase. First zombie engages with Valano over here, and then second zombie engages Takino over here, and the skeleton. I think the skeleton is a little bit farther away, so it doesn't quite get into the range, but it just like lives here. Now, range phase A, or actually spell phase A, nothing happens, no spells. Range A phase A, we couldn't take the range action, so now we go into melee phase. Now it's quite easy to determine who goes first, because the enemies do not have any melee actions. But how it would go during the melee phase is according to the length of the weapon. So we have longest weapons, long weapons, short weapons, and then is it like hand weapons? So it's like unarmed and stuff. But anyway, that's like the hierarchy that it goes with. This could change, like GM could rule that if we are like in a very narrow space where like it would be really awkward to use like long weapons, you could just say that okay, short weapons go first, or the shortest range go first, and then we go up. But usually in an open battlefield like this, the longest weapons always act first. And if there are combatants with the weapons of the equal length, then with the highest combat bonus goes first. Takino has a longsword, which has a long range. Takino's longsword attack is the first attack to be resolved. Takino's combat bonus is 75. But we have reinforced leather that will give us combat penalty of -5, which means our final, like current combat bonus is 70. And we don't have any additional penalties for now. So we can add +70 to our attack roll. And we will attacking against a zombie whose defense is 0. Okay, that's really good. But normally what you would do, you would combine all your combat bonuses into a number. Then you would take the defense and deduct that amount from the attack, and that is the final bonus that you will roll with. And then we will go into the attack tables and see what happens. So, Takino's first longsword attack. He tries to slash in this kind of upper angle against the zombie that is roaming against him. Here we go. +70 to this roll, which is huge. Which is nice that we have, because it's only 32, but it's +70, so it's 102. And now we go into the combat tables, and we see from the edged weapon combat table, I don't think zombies have any armor, right? No armor, which is really, really nice. So it means we watch from this side, 105. Nice, we did 13 damage and a moderate critical. That is really nice first strike. So we add here 13. Ooh, that's bright. So I will add the 13 here so we remember which zombie has taken how much damage. That is a big, big hit. And we did a moderate critical, which means we go into the critical table of cut critical strikes. And now, because we did a moderate critical strike, that means that we can go up to here. So that means we can go up to 120 on the critical table. And because it is a moderate critical, that means we get +20 to this roll. +0 from superficial, +10 for light critical, +20 for moderate critical, +30 for previous critical, and then +50 for lethal critical. But now we have the moderate critical, so +20 to this roll, and then we can go up to 120. And this is not open-ended roll, so this won't like generate more or less. Ooh, 55, that is really nice. And we add 20 to that, so it's 75. 75 is here. Slice through the side. The targets were, if the target's wearing armor, +5 damage and stunned. The enemy is not wearing armor. +10 damage, 2 bleed, stunned, and -10 to all actions. Oh god damn, that is a vicious hit. So almost half of the zombies' hit points are completely gone from the first major slash into the side of the zombie. Like, Takino takes grab of his sword and just like basically does this kind of sideways swipe and opens up the zombie almost completely open. It has I will add the 1 stunned, which means that this creature cannot take full actions in the next round. This creature would be bleeding, but undead creature do not take any bleeding damage because they don't have really running blood, so that makes sense, right? And -10 to all actions. That is what we call a death spiral system. Oh, like in this game, if you get a good hit in, if you are in the first round and are the first one to get a good hit in, you do a lot of damage. It's really tactical. It's really tactical in that sense. But that's why you have rules for parrying that we probably go into in a second. But yeah, don't get hit. That's my advice to you. So now, Takino, amazing attack in a melee phase. Then we go into short weapons, which is Valano's turn. But Valano gets -20 to this roll because they also combine it with a short action to drop down the bow and like unsheath their weapon. So Takino has blade skill as whopping 25. -20 means that Takino will get an amazing +5 to this roll against this zombie, which has defense of 0, so +5 is still something. Okay, here we go. So, and again, this is an open-ended roll, so if we roll really well, we can roll again and add it into the result. Oh, not that bad! I rolled a 73 +5, which means 78. One side note while we are doing this attack is how different weapons are distinguished from each other in this game. Is basically your weapons have different like special abilities in a sense, or like different functions. Like bows have a quick reload that you can use only half action to like knock an arrow on it. And one important distinction is also that you have a maximum value to a weapon, which means that when we are rolling the attack table, that is the best result that we can get from that weapon. So you can't get like those 200 results with a dagger. You need to have like a 200 like sword in order for you to get like those big hits. There are exceptions, like there are some assassination skills that you can, but you know, there are exceptions, but basically that's how it goes. So the short sword has maximum value of 130, and 78 is definitely in that range. So we can just see what we did. And it's a cut weapon as well, so we just go back up here. I mean edged weapon, sorry. And zombies are not armored. 78. Oh, we just hit! Because yeah, it was 78. We barely made a scratch. That's nice to know. So we did 7 damage plus superficial critical. Valano is like, oh, oh, ah! And just stabs the enemy. Oh no. I might be doing this wrong now, so a little disclaimer, but with swords you can actually choose the critical table that you want to use. You can use either the cut table or you can use the piercing table, because you can stab and slash with the sword, so that's why you have those both with swords. So I don't know if you can decide that. I don't know if you have to decide that before you roll the attack roll, or can you decide that when you get actually the critical. I would say you probably need to, like, in the declaration phase, to say which way you want to attack. Just to show some variation, I will now use the Pierce critical table. So it was superficial, we can get maximum result of 100 from this crit, and we get no bonuses for this crit for now. And that is a 33. So not a big roll, but let's see what we can get from that. 33. Thigh strike. Thigh strike. +3 damage. If the target's not wearing leg protection, they are not. The blow lunges deeper. 3 bleed, but zombies are not bleeders, so that doesn't help us. But it does +3 damage. So Valon is like, and stabs the zombie straight into the thigh. And that probably slows the zombie a little bit. And that is end of the second round. We did some great damage in this round. And now we need to start about thinking our defense. First, assessment phase. I don't think anyone has real problems determining like who is where, so that's fine for now. Then we go again into the action declaration phase. These two zombies, this zombie and this skeleton definitely lunge into attack against Takino, and this zombie finally have now reached Valano as well and just tries to like go full on lunging, no tacticality at all, just tries to like overwhelm their enemy with like scratches and hits. Okay, what will the heroes do? I think Takino will now use parry. Parry is basically like a free action that you can do, where you can take some of your combat bonus from that round and add it into your defense. When you're using a weapon, you have to declare that what attack you try to parry, and you can parry only one attack per turn. And for example, you can't parry ranged attacks. But if you have a shield, you can actually declare a direction where you are parrying, and then you can parry all the attacks from that side, and you can even parry the range attacks. So shield is really good in this game. Because we don't have any shields, we have only the longsword, Takino will use 10 from his bonus to give against this skeleton's attack. So normally Takino will have a defense of 15, which comes from his swiftness, and they will now add +10, so it's now 25 against this skeleton's attack. And I think for his attack, yeah, he will try to focus now on the skeleton, and because the zombie took some big hit and cannot really attack this round, and was kind of like stumbled a little bit back from the big slash that Takino did. So Takino has more time now to parry the skeleton's attack and then probably make their own attack. I think Valano will just try to attack the enemy with full of their attack and not put anything on their defense. But Valano has actually 20 defense because they are so swift, so it's not that big of a deal. Let's see what happens. So action declaration. Takino will parry the skeleton's attack and also attack the skeleton. And Valano will not put anything on the parry and will just try to stab the zombie again. Spell phase, range phase, nothing happens. We go straight into the melee phase again. And now I said that the skeleton has an axe. And we could say it's a like two-handed battle axe as well, which would mean it has a long range. But because Takino has more combat bonus skill, which means that Takino will go first. And now we have 60 combat bonus to use because we decided to use 10 of that bonus to our defense. And the skeleton's defense is +20, which means we will deduct from the 60 that we have. So our final bonus to this attack is +40. So here we go. +40 against the skeleton. And I think I will use... Takino will try to like pierce this skeleton as well. Because he knows and he saw that when he did this amazing cut wound to the zombie that the bleeding won't help him at this point. So he just tries to like use the sword to make like this kind of stabbing attacks to really like break the bone. Here we go, plus 40. Ooh, nice! That is 70, so 70 plus 40, so it's 110. That is really good. Longsword has maximum of 150, so that's definitely in our range as well. 110 against skeleton, which I think, did the skeleton have any armor? The skeleton does not have any armor. This is the armor value. So no armor and shield. And what this means is creature type, and the first letter here tells us what kind of critical reduction the creature might have. So N means there is no critical reduction, but there might be like some kind of heroic creatures, like some big dragons, that when you try to attack them critically, you can't do the same kind of damage that you would to a normal creature. So that's why whenever you would have like a critical strike, of like lethal critical strike, it's actually just grievous critical strike, because of their unnatural resilience. So skeleton, no armor and a shield, but that doesn't provide anything to this table. 110 is here. Superficial critical 11 damage. I'll take it. Let's add the 11 damage first. And skeleton's maximum health is only 25, because they are bony skeletons, so they don't have a lot of meat around them. Nice, that is really good. And then we did a superficial piercing critical. So let's see what that means. So we can already again get only a maximum number of 100 and no modifiers to this one. Ooh, that's not good. That's only 12. So here, graze to the shoulder, plus 3 damage. Well, it's something. It's definitely something. So it's 14 damage against the skeleton already. But now it's the skeleton's turn to attack. So Takino sees the skeleton coming, has slashed the zombie, which takes a few steps back, and then with the same twist stabs the skeleton to the shoulder, but it's not enough to slow the skeleton down, which still has a chance to strike with their axe. And let's double check. Takino's defense is 15, and we added 10 to our defense to parry, so that means overall defense bonus of 25 against the skeleton's attack, which is plus 30 with the weapon, so it actually is reduced to only plus 5 bonus. And now we roll and see what kind of damage the skeleton does. Oh, here we go. Ooh, that's bad. 78 plus 5 means 83. With the axe, we have light armor, so 83 here with, oh, if we would have not have armor, it would have been really bad, but it's only 6 damage for us because of our light armor. So light armor is reducing our skill by 5, but it gives us quite a lot of protection. So we are taking our first damage, which is 6 points of damage. We are at 64. So Takino can stab, the axe comes down. He has time to like dodge the attack, but it grazes his chest a little bit, but nothing that could do a very significant damage. Those were all the long range weapons. Now we go into short weapons, which is first Valano's short sword that they are trying to use again to stab the zombie again. Hopefully somewhere else than thigh this time. And now they can actually have a plus 25 to bonus, which is a little bit better than only plus 5. But we still need to get quite a high number in order to do any actual damage right now. Okay, hopefully we get something. Here we go. That's 22. Yeah, 47 is not gonna do anything. We can double check, but I can already tell you that it's not gonna do anything. Yeah. They try to stab the enemy again, but the zombie this time just like unnaturally moves to the side a little bit and completely evades the attack, and it's now the zombie's turn to attack. This zombie just is stunned and does not take any actions right now, but this zombie has still fully their turn, and they will try to attack Valinor. And the zombie has attack of unarmed strike plus 40. Oh, that's a big bonus. But luckily Valinor has a swiftness bonus of 20, so it's only plus 20 for this zombie. But also, Valinor does not have any armor on. Oh, let's see what happens. This is the zombie's attack against Valinor. Oh, that's great! Now we can get into those open-ended rolls. I rolled a 0-2. So this means when you're rolling like skill checks and attack rolls, we're talking about this open-ended rolling. If you roll 96 or up, you will actually roll the dice again. But if you roll 1 to 5, you will actually take the dice again and deduct from their skill, and if it goes to like minus numbers or low numbers, the enemy will actually fumble. So right now they have 22 because 20 bonus that they had, and then they had plus 2. Now we will roll and reduce this from that rolling, and if it gets to like single digits, then we will see if the attack completely fumbles, and that can be bad things to the zombie. That is 46, so that is minus something. So yes, definitely fumbles. So normally like different weapons have like a fumble range, which can be like from 1 to 7 or something like that. And the bigger and heavier the weapon, the fumble range is bigger. And I don't think it's like 1 or 2 with like melee, like with brawling weapons, but when it goes to the negative, it always fumbles. So it's really easy to assume that this is complete fumble. But it is a brawling weapon or hand weapon, which means that the fumble modifier is only +0. Or whenever a character's unmodified attack roll falls within the clumsy range of their weapon, the attack automatically misses and its targets and the attack fumbles. Roll another d100, add the weapon fumble modifiers, and compare the results with the melee and range fumbles table. Yeah, so it won't explode, but it's still like, well, it's still bad. But there's no modifiers because it was unarmed strike. Let's see what happens. Ooh, 94! The character must make an assessment roll during the next assessment phase and gets to choose one. Drops weapon, takes superficial critical strike of the appropriate type. Well, the zombie cannot drop the weapon. So I will just say for the narrative wise, yeah, this is how it goes. The zombie is like, the Valinor tries to first stab the zombie, but the zombie is like hectically moving towards Valinor, and Valinor just instinctively, when they are trying to defend, just puts the sword between them and the zombie, so they will get a superficial piercing critical. That's great. That's so great. 61. Strikes grazes target's side, bleed and stunned. Well, the bleed is not affecting, but the stun is definitely affecting. So, and they need to make an assessment phase. So I would say the zombie kind of like wanders into here, like had so much momentum in their like in their like movement that Valano had to take a step to the side, and still like holding the short sword here, it just grazed the zombie when they came like through the side over here. And the zombie is now like stunned and doesn't exactly know where they are right now. And stunned is not only bad because you can't do really great actions, it's also a bonus modifier for the enemy for their next attack. What an intense third round. Oh my god. Okay. We go into the fifth. I think this is the fifth round. First assessment phase. Let's first just see if the zombie has any idea yet, like where Valano is or where everything is. Like, can the zombie reorient themselves? Zombies have no bonuses to roguery, which is where the perception skill is. So this is just straight roll. And it's just 75 up, because now it's just a basic skill roll. And you will succeed with a cost at 75, but I would rule that in combat the success with a cost doesn't really come into play too much. Or not in every roll at least. So yeah, that is the least that we need to get for the zombie. No modifiers. So let's see what happens. 38. Nope. They have no idea where everyone is right now. So they are completely out of it for now. Like, the zombie has gone here and it's like momentarily basically showing their back to Valano right now. Now, declaration phase. I think the zombie, being the animal it is, actually is now focused here, Elder over here, which is not great. And Valano is like, oh crap, oh crap! But I think, yeah, they will try to now go attack the Elder. These two zombies are fully keen on fighting against Takino right now. Yeah, they both will just use everything they have to attack Takino. Simple as that. What will heroes do? Valano will go after this zombie and just try to like stab the zombie in the back. And they will actually get bonuses from like attacking from the rear, but let's do that when we get there. But yeah, Valano tries to like chase the zombie down and actually stab the zombie in the back. Takino has a lot of choices to make. Like, the skeleton looks that it has taken some beating, but also the zombie looks like it. And Takino might have better chance to take out the zombie first. But the skeleton's attack could do more damage. I think Takino will now try to focus on taking the zombie, just simply take the zombie out first. So they will try to parry the skeleton's attack, use 10 of their parry again against the skeleton to parry any possible attacks, but still focus on their attack to attack the zombie in front of him. And just tries to like take one of them out first. And that is action declaration phase done. Range, nothing happens. Spell, nothing happens. And now we get into the actual melee phase again. Takino goes first against the zombie, which is not stunned anymore. But it has no defense. -10 to all actions, that doesn't affect to defense. But it doesn't matter because the zombie does not have any defense at all. So +60 because we used 10 to parry the skeleton's attack. +60 to this roll. Against the zombie, here we go. Oh! That is 97. That means open-ended roll up. 97 plus this. That's only, I was first like 90, but it was actually 9. So 97 plus 9 is, it's 106 plus 60, so 166. But I think longsword's maximum number is 150. 150, yes, but we get the maximum result of our attack. And I'll be fair, because I didn't declare which critical I'm gonna use. The cut critical is basically like the basic one that the sword uses, so I will use the cut critical table because I think we will get a critical from this. 150 against the zombie. Let's go. What we get? Give me something good. No armor. Oh, we are going high. 30 plus lethal critical. The zombie has 53 damage taken, which isn't, and it has 55 points. So let's see what the lethal will give us. So it will be cut critical plus 50, and we can go all the way, baby. We go all the way, and we add 50 to this. It is 66 plus 50, which is 116 right here. Powerful strike to the chest. Target is prone, yeah, right. Stunned and takes plus 12 damage and minus 30 to all action rolls. If the target is not wearing metal armor, plus 10 bleed. Like, Takino swings the sword and just turns it around and makes this lower uppercut and basically splits the zombie in two. And the zombie is completely and utterly destroyed. The zombie is out of the game. Bada bim, bada boom. What an amazing attack from Takino. But now, Takino, by doing this uppercut swing, has now given his side open to the skeleton's axe attack that will come now. Which is only plus 5 again, because they have plus 30 and we added the plus 10 to the defense, so it's only with plus 5, because 30 minus 25 is 5. Let's see what we get. Oh, I was first like 94, but it's 49, which is much better. So it's 50, 49, 54 is the skeleton's axe attack. We go again to the edge table. 54 with light armor doesn't even do anything. It hits. So the difference between the cuts and the zeros are that the cuts means like that the hit completely misses the target. It doesn't even touch the target. The zero means that the impact, like the weapon touches the target, but it's either buried or it's been blocked by the shield, weapon, or the armor. Hitting the sword, Takino can barely dodge out of the way and can see like the axe again striking a little bit from his hand and sheaving off his leather armor a little bit, but doesn't do any damage. Oh, by the way, I forgot to use the movement phase and move the zombie in here and Valano behind the zombie as well. So I'm just doing that now. Because now we get into Valano's turn with short weapon range. And now we get a bunch of stuff. I think when enemy is stunned, we will get, here we are, conditions. Stunned. Stunned characters are temporarily dazed, staggered, or disoriented, that we know. Stunned character cannot take full actions, but can still defend themselves using up the half of the CMB to parry. Attacks against stunned characters gain plus 20 bonus. Characters suffering from stunned conditions stop being stunned at the end of other actions phase, unless they have been stunned during the course of the same round. Fair enough. We get plus 20 from the enemy being stunned, and then we also get bonus from being in the rear. Characters attacking foes from behind are on rear. Attackers on rear get plus 30 bonus to their attacks. Characters cannot apply their shield defense bonus attacks from their rear. So yeah, if they're using shield's defense, it cannot be used from the rear. So here we go. So we get plus 50 to this attack because the enemy is stunned, like it's stumbling towards the Elder, and also Valano has a chance now to stab directly to this enemy's back. But we take now minus 20 penalty because we used our half action to move behind the zombie and we are still attacking, so it's full action and half action, which means we get minus 20 bonus. But now let's do the math together. This is a math game. We have 25 bonus from just our attacking. We have plus 30 bonus from the rear. We have plus 20 bonus from being stunned. We have minus 20 penalty from moving around. So that means we have 25 plus 30, which means 55 bonus to this attack. And the enemy has no defense at all. So Valano will just stick and try to again use pierce critical and stab this zombie to death. Let's see how it goes. Plus 55. Oh, good job, Valano. That's 76. Which means 55, so it's 120. 125 plus 6. It's 131. And that is actually the sword's maximum result was 130. So we do the maximum result. Good job. What does that mean? Here we go, not armored. 130. Here, 23 damage plus lethal critical. Calm down, Valano. So the zombie has taken 33 points of damage. He's still stunned for the moment, but let's first roll the critical table with plus 50 on Pierce critical table. This is gonna be rough for the zombie. Here we go. Let's do this together, kids. 63 plus 50 is 113, which is here. Piercing strike to the chest. If the target's wearing rigid armor, it's not. If not, lung pierced, plus 15 damaged, stunned again, and minus 50 activity, dies in 6 hours. So if you don't heal this quickly, you would die. But they are undead. They don't. This is not as good as it would have been against a living target, but plus 15 damage and stunned again, I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. So plus 13 damage, it's 46 damage overall. So it's almost dead and it's stunned again. The zombie, Valano is like, stabs the zombie deeply in the back, and it is basically pierced by the sword. And the village elder basically like drops on their back and starts to like crawl back like Oh no. What a round. Okay, let's go again to the assessment phase. This zombie is now like hectically tries to hit anything that it can see. I think it will try to like keep itself next to the village elder, who is now stuck in engagement with the zombie right now. But luckily the zombie is still stunned, so it can't really do anything for the elder. And the skeleton will just keep on fighting until the end against Takino. And Takino will definitely respond to that. Will Takino want to save the +10 bonus now and just try to like... Takino knows that he is fast enough to strike first, so if he would just add the +10 bonus to the attack and try to pierce the skeleton out of it, he could actually end it before the skeleton has chance to strike. And I think that is exactly what Takino does. No bonuses to his defense, just attacking with full force and hopefully taking the skeleton out. And Valano just keeps stabbing the zombie in the back and just tries to like, die! Die! I mean, die again! So now, range phase, nothing. Spell phase, nothing. Melee phase, Takino focuses and tries to make a piercing attack from upside down and hit the skeleton in the chest with a piercing attack. +70 against skeletons. How much defense had skeleton? Defense was 20, so +50. 70 minus 20 is 50. +50 to the roll. And that is 56 plus 50, that's 106. So that is definitely damage. So 106. Skeleton has no armor, only shield. Here we go. Grievous wound and 17 damage. Is that actually enough? That is enough to take the skeleton out. We don't have to even do the critical. Takino just finds the place and sees the skeleton starting to lunge for attack and is fast enough to pierce the skull with his sword and just crushes the skull, and the skeleton is just a pile of bones in the ground. And then again starts to like already turn and see how Valano is faring with this zombie. And conveniently enough, it's Valano's turn. It's short range time. Again in the back. But now Valano has not moved, so now we get +30. It still stunned the zombie, +20, +25. So it's 75 bonus to the attack. In this game, when you are screwed, you are really screwed. Here we go, +75. And that's... oh, that was 51. 51 plus 75 is 121. So not quite the full result. 121 is... it is still lethal strike. 21 lethal. But that's enough again. And the Valano just stabs the zombie with the sword, like and the zombie just starts to just fall down and is completely taken out. And the combat has ceased. Whew. Whoa, that was intense. Whew, that was our combat section, and as you can see, I tried to keep it smooth, and we didn't even go into full like range attack things and spell casting, and it took quite a lot of time. So if you are a person who doesn't want to be bogged down by too much detail in the combat, this is not the game for you. But if you enjoy those narrative battles that you get like to roll tables to see how the battle is unfolding and how these tactical moment-to-moment things are happening, this is definitely the game for you. And if you find enjoyment in that, I definitely do. I really enjoy that moment-to-moment, like gruesome combat. But yeah, that's definitely, it requires a certain taste. If you like that kind of stuff, this is definitely a game for you. But if you don't like that, might not be the game for you. So Takino cleans his sword and put its back on his back. And Valano is like, oh my god, we survived. I'm so glad. And, are you okay, Elder? Oh yes, thank you. That was quite intense. Could we please keep going? I don't want to stay here for too long. Yes, definitely. We should definitely keep moving. The trio continues through the Veiled Temple into the forests of Emberpine Pie and the eastern parts of the Trial Lands. And I would say, like we first agreed upon, there is no big hazards in this forest region, and they will get into Wormville, which is like their first milestone of their journey. And when they arrive there, this is like the part where you can have like those roleplay moments to talk about the city, and they can meet different people. But what I want to now actually do is to see how well they are received within the town and how helpful the people are to these heroes, and will they get like possibility to buy more rations. And Valano will say to Takino and to the elder, like, let me handle this. I'm good with people. I'm good with everyone. So I will ask around, and hopefully I can find for ourselves good accommodations and a little bit rations for the journey to come, okay? So we can actually make a law check for Valano. This could be either like overall charisma check, or this could be cultures check. I would say when we are talking about Valinor, this is a charisma check. I think because I don't think they are like that well versed in different cultures. I mean, they know things, but like when they would go into this kind of town for the first time, they definitely put their charms on rather than trying to figure out like, what these people are here all about. So now we can actually make a charisma check to see how well these people are received in here. And we can, from the tables section, we can actually take the actions tables from here and see what kind of success we will get out of this. I don't think there is any extra challenging things that would complicate things, but there is not like any extra benefits either. So it's straight plus 35 to this roll, and let's see what we get. 65 plus 35, it's 90, right? No. Build it back. 35 was the charisma, right? Yes, 35. So we have 65. 60 plus 30 is already 90, so it's exactly 100. That means it's exactly the success we needed. Woo, okay. So Takino and the elder gives Valano a moment to go into the town and be like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, we would need some help in like, yeah. And they start to like really mingle with the locals, and I would say Valano is able to like find some accommodations for them, maybe for a night, to have like a little rest from the week's journey that they have been traveling through the forests. Maybe like clean themselves up a little bit and restock their rations. This doesn't necessarily have to be this fast, but I'm just wanting to show you the possibilities that you can do in this adventure. So that's why we are already now going to the final part of the journey. And this part is the treacherous roads that you might easily get lost. We can now have different checks. We could, for example, either have a wandering check to see if the heroes will get lost in this forest. Or other check could be that we could make a camping check to see if something would attack them during the night, or if they could have a like bad night's sleep or something like that. And that is actually a good check we could have right now. we can make a camping check. So camping role difficulty. We are 3 people, no modifiers. It is normal terrain, no modifiers. Then there is the camping role failure check. Let's see what happens. Who will lead this camping check? Valano has wandering at 20 and Takino has wandering at 30. So Takino will take the lead in this camp making check roll. Again, with the same table, like 75 is a partial success and 100 is a full success. And that is 91. So that is 120, which means that they will make the camp in a safe location and they are not disturbed during the night. But just for interest, let's see what could have gone wrong. We could have gotten the heroes can't get much sleep due to biting insects, foul smells, bad weather or terrible nightmares. They don't gain exhaustion, but neither do they gain any benefit from their rest. An accident, such as fire, a cave-in, a falling trunk or a flash flood, strikes the camp, threatening injure the heroes and or damage their gear. Even if the PCs manage to avoid harm, their camp is destroyed and they're unable to get any sleep for the rest of the night. So actually, a failure could create this kind of another difficult situations that the characters and the heroes would have to deal with. Like this is not just like, okay, this just happened and now you get these benefits or like negative effects. No, this is an actual event that the GM might either rule or you could randomly generate. Okay, what is the trouble that is happening to these heroes? And they are like this kind of like natural effects, so it doesn't always have to be like enemies attack during the night, enemies attack during the night. And there is the next one. Heroes are ambushed by wild beasts or minions. So there is the possibility for that one as well. The spot chosen by the PC is actually cursed or tainted by darkness. The heroes must flee or confront a terrible evil that haunts this place. So it's like you basically go into a boss fight, right? On like camping just in the wrong place. It's really cool. But yeah, overall, everything goes just fine. And the heroes manage to arrive to the dawn breeze. And I basically like ran this rest of this thing through because of the combat took so much time. I still haven't covered like the foraging mechanics. There are like many herbs that you can pick during the road. So a lot of stuff. Against the Darkmaster is definitely up there, like top 5 fantasy RPGs, personally for me. I'm a solo player and I usually don't like rules-heavy systems. But in this case, when basically like everything you do is like a narrative table that tells, like even the combat is like a story that you are telling during the combat, and things are happening all of the time. Like there are fumbles, there are successes, there are critical hits, and tells you where you hit and how you hit, and it's just, yeah, it slows the game down, but I think it's worth it on the long run. I definitely enjoyed using this different charts, and I think it works really well. I enjoy how all of the mechanics inspire like narration, and it inspires players and GMs to like tell the story. And especially when you're playing solo, you are welcoming like all of the things that tells you like to narrate these things or come up with something. It is really good fantasy simulation game overall, and it has so much character creation options, it has so much player options. Big thumbs up for me. If you don't like heavy rules, if you don't like math, if you don't like putting a bunch of modifiers together, this is not the game for you. I have to say, like, it takes a lot of time. As we could see, like in this video, this is going to be like 2 or 3 hour video, and 90 minutes of that video will be just combat. So definitely this is probably going to be one of my longest videos that I have ever done. But at least you know now, at least you have now the idea of how the game works and if you would want to play it. I thank you if you have watched this video so far. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and please leave a comment down below on what game would you like to see. That's all for me today. Hopefully I see you again really soon. Moro moro.